Okay, this video is going to go over the wheel for the miniature train using, so this is part number 5 for the Project Lead the Way miniature project. So first thing we're going to do is assemble a new component. I'm going to call this wheel, I've already got one done, so I'm going to call this wheel 2. Wheel 2, and I'm also going to save this into my train project as wheel 2. All right, so we are going to start with a sketch. We're going to put this sketch on the top plane. And what we want to do is we are going to start by creating a profile of the wheel, the cutout, and then we're going to revolve around it. So we're going to use the center origin point as the axle hole. So we're going to revolve around that. So what we're going to do is start a sketch. I'm just going to draw the basic profile crossing the red axis as a midpoint line. We're just going to draw the basic shape. So I'm going to start by drawing a line and let's get going here. I'm going to move this over some. Draw a line from here up and come over and close it. Okay, so this is going to be our basic profile for what we want to do. And what we are going to do is we want to try to keep this red axis as kind of the midpoint or the center line. So what I'm going to do is do a horizontal vertical constraint. And what we don't want to do is we don't want to click on this line to the origin point because that's going to move everything over. What we want to do instead is hover over this line, hold down the shift to find the midpoint, which is going to be the triangle with the X. Click there for the midpoint of that line. And then we're going to click so that it's locked as the midpoint of the origin. This part here is going to be our opening. And so that's where we're going to kind of get everything. Now, when you're doing this, your shape may warp itself or get disoriented. And so we just will undo and add constraints as you need to get the measurements. It takes a little bit of time and a trick to do it. Sometimes I get it, sometimes I can't. So we're just going to play with it. So the first thing that we're going to do is now we're going to start to dimension everything out. And we can add constraints as we need to. So from the point of origin to that first line, the diameter of that axle opening is 0.280. We're doing half of it because we're going to revolve around, so we're going to do a divide by 2. So we're going to divide that by 2. Then everything we're going to do, we're going to measure from this axle point. So I'm going to do a measure from the origin, measure to this one, to our next line, and that's going to be 0.25. Then I'm going to measure from this X line to our third vertical line, and that's 0.75. And then I'm going to measure from the origin to our last line, vertical line, and that is going to be 1. That's going to be 1 inch. Okay, so then what we're going to do is we're going to measure the overall height. So the overall height of this is 0.25. So what I'm going to do is dimension just this line here, and that's going to be 0.25. Okay, so that's going to get us nice and close. Now, so what you can see here is we've got this line, and we're going to measure the inside dimension from here to here, and that dimension is going to be, what is that inside dimension? 0.125, 0.125. Okay, and then what I'm going to do here is, because you can see this is off, I'm going to make these collinear. So that's going to move this and this, so they'll be the same. So what I'm going to do is go to constraints. I'm going to do collinear. I'm going to click on this one and this one. So that's going to bring them up so that they're the same distance. So now that we've got everything dimensioned out, what we're going to do is add in a, we want to round this out because this is going to be what the bottom of our wheel is. So here's our axle opening. This is the cutout of the inside of the wheel. And then this is going to be the wheel itself with a rounded edge. So 2 ways we can do it. I can either put a circle and put it right at the midpoint and just go from end to end. Or what I like to do is just to do half of it because I don't want to do anything extra. I'm just going to do a center point arc. So I'm going to go arc, center point arc. I'm going to zoom in, get to the middle, which I get with the triangle and the cross. Then I'm going to touch my top point, make sure I'm on the top point. I'm just going to drag it around and touch the bottom point, and that's going to create my curved or rounded edge. To finish the sketch, I'm going to go home so I can kind of see it here a little bit. And I'm going to now extrude this or revolve this. So I'm going to hit my revolve. I'm going to choose both faces because I want to revolve both of them. And the axis that I'm going to go around, I'm going to choose here to select the axis. I'm going to go around the green axis. And there is our wheel. So I'm going to hit OK. And so that's going to be our wheel, the start of our wheel. When we're looking at this, we are going to do a fillet, and the fillet is a point, what's the fillet here? 0.0625. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a fillet. And looking at our measures here, I'm going to click all of my inside lines here. So I'm going to get 3, 4, and we'll do this 0.625. Oh, no, that's not right. It's 0.1. Sorry, I was reading the wrong measure. 0.1. There it is, 0.1, and I'm going to hit OK. And that is going to give us our rounded edges for our wheel. So now we've got a nice rounded wheel. What we are going to do now is we are going to put in the spokes or the openings for the wheel. And this is where you can have some creativity for how you want to put this together. I'm going to do exactly like they do in the drawing. But for you, I want you to kind of come up with your own. So you do your own. You can do a triangle, a star, a smiley face, crosshairs, like whatever it is that you're thinking. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a sketch. I'm going to create a sketch. I'm going to put a sketch right here on this wheel face. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line from the origin point that goes along our red axis. So I'm going to create a line. I'm going to start right at the origin point, and I'm just going to go straight out arbitrarily, just kind of going off the wheel. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to change that into a construction line because that's just going to be a reference point for us. And I want to make sure that that line doesn't move. So I'm going to hit the fix, and I'm going to fix that line in. So what I'm going to do is click on that line. So that line is going to be fixed. So that line won't move on us. So now if I try to move this line, it won't, I can't move it and grab it. So it's going to be fixed there for us. Now I'm going to draw a couple of other lines that we're going to do to create our inner radius, and you've got these measured on there. So I'm going to draw a line from my point of origin. I'm just going to come out, and I'm going to draw a line from my point of origin, and I'm going to come out. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure those. So using my construction line here, the radius for this first one is 15 degrees. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do a dimensioning tool from that first line to my dimension line, and that's going to be 15 degrees. And then from my first line to the second line, this one is 30 degrees. And then what we're going to need to do is we're going to cut out, because we're going to make the shape in here that we're going to put together. So what I'm going to do is do another center point arc. So I'm going to do a center point arc. My center point is going to be the origin point on our model. I'm going to draw one. I'm going to go back and start my center point again. I'm going to draw a second one. I'm going to escape. Now, we don't have to do this, but I like to. I think it makes it look nice. I'm going to clean this up by trimming off the pieces that I don't need. So I don't need this extra line. I don't need this extra line. Don't need that line. I don't need that line. I'm just going to get this center part here. Now, I am going to keep these bottom lines because these are helping to constrain to close the model, and so I don't want to get rid of those just yet. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to finish the sketch. Then I'm going to extrude, and I'm going to extrude right through there. I'm going to go to home, and I can turn this around so it goes the other way. So we go through, we're going to cut it. Distance, what we can do here is I can just say all, and that'll cut the full distance. And I'm going to hit OK. And there is our first of our spoke. So now what we're going to do is we cut that out. We're just going to do a circular pattern. So I'm going to go under create. I'm going to create a pattern. I'm going to create a circular pattern. Instead of choosing the bodies that I'm going to create a pattern, I'm actually going to create off of features. And so I'm going to do that cutout feature that I've got. And I might need to rotate so I can select the feature. So I'm going to select my feature. Then if I go back to the front, I can see it. I'm going to select the axis that I want to rotate around. And so I might need to go to the home again. And the axis I want is the green axis. So it's going to rotate around. If you select the wrong axis, you can go back and select the axis again. And then I'm going to go back to the front just so I can see what it looks like. So here's 3. I've got 3 patterns cut out. I'm going to make it full. I can add a 4th. Let's add a 5th, a 6th. I think I'm going to go 5. How many do they have on the model? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 6. So I'll do 6. So it looks exactly like it does in the model. So I'll do 6. I'm going to hit OK. There's our axle cutouts. So next thing we need to do is we're going to put on the linkage arm. So I'm going to add another sketch right here on the top. Put it right here on this front face. And I'm going to drop a circle. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop a circle right along this axis so it stays perfectly centered, which is what I want. So I'm going to drop a circle right there. The dimension of this circle is 0.25. And I'm going to hit OK. So I've got my circle there. So that's going to be our starting circle. And then what we're going to do is this is 0.7 from the center point. So I'm going to dimension this out. Dimension from here to the center point. And that is 0.7. And it is going to come into kind of the inside of our wheel here a little bit, our wheel well, which is totally fine. I'm going to finish the sketch. I'm going to start an extrusion. And I want to make sure that I select both of these surfaces because I want to pull them both out. So what I'm going to do is make sure I get in here for if I need to rotate my face just a little bit so I can get in there and select it. And there it is. I got both of them. And then what I'm going to do is pull that out. And in saying it's trying to cut it out, what I want to do is I want to join it because I want to make it so that it's the same. And that is coming out at a distance of, oh, look at that, 0.25. So I got it perfect with how I pulled it out. It'll be 0.25. I'm going to hit OK. So that's going to be our first one. So then the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to put on an additional circle that is 0.125 in diameter. So I'm going to add a sketch right here on top. I'm going to add my circle. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to this midpoint and I'm going to come in. And if I zoom in here, what I should be able to do is find this the midpoint here. And what I'm going to do here is, let's do this. I'm going to add a sketch. Let's see here. I'm going to finish this. Yeah. All right. I'm going to add a circle. And I'm going to put a circle. I'm going to find right here into the middle. There it is. And that's going to be our center point. And then this one is going to be 0.125. 0.125. And I'm going to hit enter. And so that's going to be our center circle. I'm going to finish that sketch and extrude this out. So I'm going to extrude this part out. I'm going to go home. We're going to pull this out, and this is actually going to come out 0.125. 0.125. I'm going to get that here. So that's going to be the center part for our linkage. And then looking at this, we have a 0.0625 hole. That's a 1/4 of an inch in, a flat hole that goes right in the middle, okay, of that. So I'm going to go back onto here. And for this one, because we're putting a hole in, I'm going to use the hole tool. Zoom in here so I can see this. Use the hole tool. And I'm going to put a hole right here on this face. And if I click on this outside ring, it will make it concentric. So it'll be exactly where it needs to go. The depth of this is 0.625, no, 0.25, so it's 0.25 is the depth. It's a flat hole. The diameter of it is 0.0625. And that's going to be our hole. So I'm going to hit OK. So there is our hole there. So that's going to be, this is going to be our wheel. We want to make sure that we are putting this into our ABS plastic before we send this. So I'm going to put this into plastic. I'm going to put this into my ABS plastic. Then I'm also going to change the color of this for my wheels. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my appearance tablet. I've been doing mine in kind of a metal color. And let's put this, let's make these wheels, we're going to make these white. So we'll make it kind of a whitish color. We're going to hit close there. And that is going to be our wheel. So that's going to give us our wheel. When we're done, we're going to save this model and give it a milestone that we're completed. And that is everything you need for your wheel.